A pleasant day and a warm welcome to your favorite show, I Made. Today we are going to discuss one of the most important topics. As you all know, non-communicable diseases are more frequent, and among them, diabetes is a much familiar topic. So we are going to focus about the World Diabetes Day today. And to do the honors, we invited Vidyajyoti Professor Prasad Katulanda. He is a professor in medicine of the University of Colombo and a consultant endocrinologist and diabetologist. He is also the past president of Sri Lanka Diabetes Federation and Endocrine Society of Sri Lanka. Thank you very much, sir, for accepting our invitation.
Thank you very much.
And sir, as an exposure for today's topic, we are going to talk about the World Diabetes Day. Can you explain a bit about the history of that day?
Actually, what happened was people started noticing that the diabetes numbers were going high and high. So the International Diabetes Federation along with the World Health Organization got together and decided that they should do something really drastic to put a stop this epidemic. So that is why they got together and declared a World Diabetes Day. I think this was in 1991. So subsequently they were campaigning against the diabetes epidemic, doing a lot of activities, education, and then in 2006 the United Nations also considered this as a very important topic, and they declared also UN also declared November 14th as the World Diabetes Day, so that everybody get together and launch the fight against diabetes. And November 14th also is the birthday of the Sir Frederick Banting, who was a pioneer in the discovery of insulin.
Right. Okay. So with that initiative, now we commemorate and we have numerous programs. So this year also several programs are being conducted according to the International Diabetes Day and in Sri Lanka as well. So what is the theme for today's this year?
Actually, now we know that diabetes is a chronic disease and it is a lifelong disease, and also particularly the common type of diabetes, what we call type 2 diabetes, is mostly a problem of our lifestyles. So education is a very important thing in facing this challenge against diabetes. So actually this year the theme is education to protect tomorrow, that is to protect the future of the population, to do education. And this education encompasses many things, that is the prevention of diabetes and about screening for diabetes and its complications, and well as teaching and educating and coaching people how to live healthily with diabetes. So those are the broad objectives, and also this comes along the broader objective of the International Diabetes Federation, the WHO, for the years 21, 22, 23, that is to provide access to care for diabetes. So these are the themes for this year's World Diabetes Day.
Right. In relation to the World Diabetes Day, sometimes with the initiative of professors and experts in the field, there might be certain new initiatives, novel steps to enhance the existing conditions of Sri Lanka. Any initiatives from Sri Lanka, sir?
Actually, every year, mainly the Sri Lanka Diabetes Federation, then the College of Endocrinologists, they actually take quite a leadership in organizing a lot of activities along with the Non-Communicable Disease Bureau and the Non-Communicable Disease Unit of the Ministry of Health to launch the National Diabetes Day program. This year also, actually these things got little halted during the last few years because of the COVID pandemic. People could not get out and do a lot of public activities, but this year again this is coming in with full vigor, where the Diabetes Federation along with the College of Endocrinologists and the Ministry of Health have joined hands, and they have launched a countrywide program to tackle this problem. I know in addition to these organizations, Sri Lanka Diabetic Association also may be doing a lot of activities, and the International Lions Club, because the Lions Club has a mandate to work for the diabetes epidemic. They have also joined hands with many of these bodies to educate the public and carry out a lot of campaigns to see what we can do against this problem.
Right. And sir, as a professor in this related field, endocrinology and even diabetology, how do you feel the importance of allocating a separate day for diabetes?
Actually, now a separate day alone is not enough, but we need to get the masses, get the public, get the policymakers, get the media, and get the NGOs, everybody involved, and also everybody needs to be encouraged, motivated to get together and work towards this common goal of one thing is preventing diabetes, and then also making the lives of diabetic patients better and reducing what we call the morbidity and mortality. That means the number of deaths due to diabetes, and morbidity is the simple term is the suffering due to diabetes. So because of this day, everybody gets united and also puts a concerted effort and a campaign to educate billions of people across the world. If you take Sri Lanka, millions of people. So everybody gets to know the importance of this problem and their individual roles as non-diabetic people and as diabetic people, as policymakers, as officials, and as media, as NGOs. What is their role in this whole problem?
Right. Okay. So I emphasize certain sectors, media, policymakers, and even the general public. They do have their own specific roles, because experts and professionals in the field, they do the programs, they conduct. Finally, ultimately, what people should consider is individually. A disease is caught individually. They should be aware. And sir, like you talked about people who are having diabetes and people they might not have diabetes. But shall we discuss about the consequences of this diabetes so that we can give advices to the people?
Yeah, actually, a few things that I would like to add here is because people without diabetes, if you take just the numbers, in about 1990s, the general population in the adults, the diabetes prevalence was around 2.5%. This rose to about 10% around the year 2006. And actually we haven't got very robust data for the entire country for now, but just to highlight the problem, in 2006 we showed that in the Colombo district the prevalence of diabetes among adults was about 18%, and in 2018 we showed that this is around 30%. See, about it has doubled
at an alarming rate.
So if you take the entire country also, this may be something similar. It may be something closer to even 20%.
Right.
So that is means 1 in every 5 person has diabetes. So actually everybody should think that everyone has potentially the risk of getting diabetes. So I think individuals who do not have diabetes should do two things. One thing is to understand the risk and also be determined how to be free of diabetes in their entire life, if not possible, as long as possible in their life. If this is a difficult thing, particularly people with strong family history of diabetes, people who do not do a lot of exercise, physically less active people who are little obese, they are at higher risk. And also the other thing is, people with diabetes, they should be determined to be best of their control, so that they will be able to lead more or less normal lives without bad effects of diabetes. So those are the two convictions people should make during the World Diabetes Day.
Right. And so you emphasize a lot about people who are not having diabetes. Simply take a person, simply like a person is there, he says that, oh right, it's okay, I'm good, I don't have diabetes and I don't have any other chronic diseases. But he might not know really whether he have this disease or not. But in the sense, like there are certain mechanisms they test. People say that some people who are having the disease, they having excessive thirst, excessive urination, but in the sense like, oh no, I don't have those things. Is it okay to conclude by themselves that they don't have the disease?
No, that's, you are very correct, because diabetes, we call it a silent killer. Because until people get very high levels of glucose in their blood as well as complications, diabetes can remain without any symptoms even over a decade. We have seen patients coming with diabetes chronic complications. They have never been, tested positive and found to be having diabetes. So not having symptoms does not mean that you don't have diabetes. Few things people should be aware. One thing is, you should generally know whether you are a person with who is having high risk of diabetes or not. The risk factors for diabetes is whether your parents, whether your uncles, aunts, whether your brothers, sisters, if they have diabetes, then you are going to be at very high risk. Then, are you somebody who is always physically active, like these people, sportsmen, farmers, that sort of people are generally physically active. Others generally at high risk. And actually I think this is now moving away. I have seen many farmers even having diabetes. So this is little now changing over the time, because even among farmers we see obesity, and also they use a lot of machinery for cultivation. So even these things are changing. And then particularly the people who are doing shift work, who are generally having little obese or overweight, right? So these are risk factors. So people with risk factors should be generally be aware that they are at higher risk. So generally what people should do is, they should get a blood test periodically. If you are at high risk, I would recommend even every year. But if not, at least about in every 3 to 5 years, they should get a blood test to make sure that you have, whether you have diabetes. And also you can get to know another thing.
Right.
You can get to know that whether you are in the verge of developing diabetes. We call this pre-diabetes.
Right.
From the blood test you can say whether you are getting to borderline. So if you are getting to borderline, if you work hard, if you lose weight, if you do more exercise, be healthy, then you can either get back to normal level, or you can delay the onset of diabetes. So those are the two things, few things that people without diabetes can do.
So simply when having this exposure, they will do the blood test, right? So normally blood sugar test, the fasting blood sugar, they know we have to have this period of fasting and go and give a blood report. And even certain other reports, they don't need any prescription from the doctor to get it done. But, and the most important thing, at the end of the report, there are some figures and values stating the range and everything. So they got to determine themselves that, alright, I'm okay, I'm good. Is it a possible trend?
Generally we don't advise people to sort of read their own reports and come into conclusions. It would be better at least to show that to your family doctor and get some advice. But as you say, there are several methods of screening for diabetes. One method is to get a fasting blood glucose test. Another method, actually it is little costlier. There's another test which does not need fasting. There's a called glycosylated hemoglobin, or HbA1c. That will also tell you whether you have diabetes or whether you are in pre-diabetes. So you can do any of these tests, or even the combination might be even better, and then show it to even a family doctor and get an idea where you stand the risk, whether you have diabetes or whether you are in the borderline or whether you are completely normal.
Right. So, in the reports, you can get it done by yourself, but determining the consequences and the health condition that you are currently dealing with is not up to you. Just you have to take the advice of the physician. As Professor said, there are certain levels. You might be having diabetes, you might be having chronic complications, that mean the what you call the after the getting the disease, you will be having certain serious issues after that getting the disease. And specifically, what is more important is, if you are prone to diabetes, if you are gradually developing diabetes, you might be in a difficult situation to identify, because medical professionals are there to assist. So at least show it to your family physician to get a certain idea. And so the other thing, people who are like getting medicine with diabetes, they just consider only, alright, my fasting blood sugar is now normal, it's below 100, it says, the report says below 100, you are okay, and they got to stop the medications and just around. Now I can balance with my diet, I can do exercise. Yes, doctor also informed that if you are doing exercises, if you are having a proper diet, and if you are away from getting all the risk factors, we have a possibility to develop a certain path away from diabetes. So they are going to stop their medication. Now I'll completely control everything, my diet and exercise. Is it good?
No, I think that is one of the main mistakes that many people does. If your glucose level is normal with medicines, that does not mean you should stop medicines. If the sugar is going low, you need to speak to your doctor and adjust your medications. But if it is normal, that means your medicines working and it is controlled in the sugar. If you stop it, it will rise.
Right.
So then you might stop and just wait, and then the levels will go up, and you will get chronic complications. And so you should not self-treat your diabetes, and also decide on your own whether to take medicines or whether to stop medicines. And the other important thing is that nowadays we have this glycosylated hemoglobin or HbA1c test, which will give an idea of the average glucose over the last 3 months. So we generally go by this test to see whether somebody is very well controlled or not, because sometimes our patients, they try to I don't want to use that term, but fool themselves, right? Because thing is, you try to be at your best control, and sometimes even take things more than what the doctor has prescribed, some native sort of plants or herbal preparations, and try to get a very good fasting blood glucose level, and then sort of go and take that to the doctor. So that is, you are fooling yourself.
Yes.
Right. But nowadays, actually, experienced doctors, they will always ask for a glycosylated hemoglobin HbA1c test, and then they go by that. So you should not try to self decide your management plan. You should always get the help of a doctor to get the best control.
Yes, the average value of FBS is only pleasing their own minds, not addressing the proper issue. And so, like, when it comes to this diabetes, we talked about there are conditions developing pre-diabetes, how they can be prevented, and the people who are prone to diabetes, they should get medicine, and they should maintain, and they should investigate regularly. And what are the complications of diabetes if that is not properly controlled?
So if the diabetes is not properly controlled, you can get 3 diabetic specific complications. One is that you can get your kidneys affected and can lead to initially protein leak from the kidneys, subsequently progress into kidney failure. And then your nerves can get affected, and then you might lose sensation of your feet, hands, and then without your knowledge, the feet can get injured, and you can even lose your limbs, feet, amputation. And also there can be some other nerve complications like the autonomic nervous system complication that can lead to erectile dysfunction in men, and so on. And then the eyes can get affected, and even people can go blind. So these are diabetic specific issues. And also diabetic patients should be very careful about their cholesterol and not smoking and all these things, because diabetic people can get bad heart attacks and stroke, and also blockage of their blood vessels in the legs, more commonly than normal people. So we call this macrovascular, big blood vessel complications. And then also, because of all these, people need to take care of their diabetes very well all the time.
Right. In that sense, like a person having diabetes is managing very well. He is having a good diet and doing regular exercises, taking medicines regularly, doing those investigations. So he might be afraid, oh right, I'm having diabetes. There are certain complications, as Professor said, and will I end my life in suffering? Is it so? Can we lead a successful life maintaining diabetes if we are adhering the proper procedure?
Yeah, actually, if you control your diabetes very well and also take all the precautions that has been shown effective in reducing the complications, people can more or less lead normal lives like other people without diabetes does. So this is a message that we should give. So try to control your diabetes to near normal level like a normal person, and then that will help you to prevent complications and live happy and healthy lives.
Right. And so like some people, they say that you said about certain complications, kidney might be affected, there might be certain eye related issues, and even like macrovascular, that means something related with large blood vessels, some heart issues. There are certain consequences, but some people complain, I took medicine perfectly and my kidneys got affected. Is it true regarding that person, or is there any mismanagement from his side?
No, actually what we need to understand is, one thing is sometimes by the time somebody starts to get very good control, there may have been diabetes would have been in the body for many years. I told you, because silent killer thing. So if there had been substantial damage by the time it was diagnosed, then this can slowly progress and ultimately end up in kidney failure and so on. But even if there's a damage at the time the diagnosis was made, if you get good control, you can slow down the progress of the complications. That is what we should try to do. Even though we completely might not be able to prevent. Imagine now somebody is there, he is having diabetes at 35 years. If you poorly control, by 45-50 you can get kidney failure and nerve damage and all these things. But imagine if you very well control and push off or delay these complications to 75, you are more or less lived your life happily, the full span of your life. So, and anyway we know that with age also certain amount of our organs become dysfunctional, and kidney function can slowly become affected and so on. So there can be interaction with diabetes and aging and so on. So but overall the message is, if you control very well, you can be lead very healthy good lives.
Right. Okay. So we got numerous pieces of advice from our professor, and you might be having a certain idea that we should do some sort of investigations. We don't have diabetes, simply blood sugar, but it's better if you can have a body checkup. Yes, it's the intention of the Diabetes Day messages and the programs, all those awareness would be in vain if you are not adhering to proper guidelines and the instructions given by the professionals, because throughout the time the number of diabetes patients, person who are suffering, the mortality, morbidity, that means the death rate, and the people who are suffering has increased. So let's give a pause to this. Let's slow down. Let's flatten the curve. So that is what the people who are involving and engaging in this endeavor needs to have. So thank you very much, sir. Professor Vidyajyoti, Professor Prasad Katulanda, Professor in Medicine of University of Colombo, and Consultant Endocrinologist and Diabetologist, and the past President of Sri Lanka Diabetes Federation and Endocrine Society of Sri Lanka, for giving us these valuable advices and for joining us in the program IMID. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be concerning another topic in our next episode regarding diabetes and certain other disease conditions as well. Thank you very much for joining. Have a pleasant day.